Have you been drinking tonight? Gary, you're over the legal limit of .08. You are under arrest for driving under influence. Do you understand that? Let's have something in the back of the car.
An Albuquerque fire captain is arrested for driving drunk ×3.
Also tonight, we have a big drug bust to tell you about in Warren County.
Police say but the person behind the wheel was WXII morning news anchor, and he was driving drunk.
A state rep candidate turns himself in and is charged with driving while intoxicated.
One of the things I think that is necessary for individuals to understand pertaining to addiction is that it has no respect of person, place, or thing. Often we think that the person who is experiencing addiction or alcoholism is the person who's under the bridge or the person who is soliciting funds on the side of the street. But it touches government. It touches doctors, lawyers, teachers. Everybody is touched by this disease. And so it's important that individuals begin to understand that, and so that we can lose the stereotypical perception that we have of who these individuals are.
You know, addiction to alcohol or drugs is a serious and debilitating problem that we have.
School bus crash in Midland this morning, and to make matters worse, the bus driver was arrested for DUI.
My dad had an addiction problem and ended up costing him his job and ended up breaking up the family. And then most recently, my younger brother, as a result of an injury, got onto prescription painkillers, alcohol, and non-prescription drugs, and ended up killing himself because he just couldn't handle it.
We'll begin tonight with a very serious topic, drug addiction.
3 people behind bars arrested after a motel drug bust.
Research through the years has given a pretty clear picture that for every alcoholic or addict, they're directly affecting a minimum of 5 people, that one addict. Approximately 1 out of every 10 Americans is an alcoholic, and then you multiply the 5 times that, you've got a staggering figure of people who are directly impacted.
The rate of domestic violence is triple the national average.
The police answered about 25,000 calls, all pertaining to domestic violence.
I can honestly say that there isn't a week that goes by that we don't get domestic violence calls.
My mommy and daddy are having a fight. He's hurting mommy.
How's he hurting her?
And he made some remarks on mama's neck.
It's the wife, it's the parents, it's the children.
He did what?
Oh my God!
What's the matter?
Something happened!
Our life was in shambles. My kids had emotional problems. Life in our house was never violent, but to have someone you love just walk out the door and say nothing and not come back until later was traumatizing, because we never knew what was going to happen. If he was going to die, if someone was going to kill him, if he's going to get in trouble with the law.
The DWI Resource Center says alcoholics normally need between 1 and 3 years of tough treatment to overcome their addictions, followed by a lifetime of support.
In addiction, everybody pays. No one gets away. I don't care if you're a millionaire. I don't care if you don't have 2 cents to put together. Addiction affects you physically, mentally, and spiritually, and also affects you on an emotional level.
When addiction goes untreated, the end is inevitably jails, institutions, or death.
My kids are crying and suffering because Daddy wasn't man enough or strong enough to get away from his drugs. It took me that long to get to the point where, I said, I can't do this anymore.
Dr. Scott Blankenberg was rearrested over the weekend. He faces half a dozen more new charges. Prosecutors say they seized several items, including syringes and prescription bottles.
The Kennedy family, being Scots-Irish, has a long history of alcoholism. As far back as I'm aware of, my grandfather, my father, Myself, 2 of the 3 of my sons, have this disease. As a result of this disease, my father, died at age 64.
Well, when addiction goes untreated, it may not be long before they're going to be beyond recovery in terms of they're no longer going to have the mental capabilities of grasping what recovery is all about. The old phrase is insanity or death. And for many of these guys, death is not very far off.
I saw the pain in my mother's eyes. I saw the hurt in my daughter and my ex-wife's eyes. And my sisters and brothers. That was it, man. That was it. I saw me for what I was, what I'd become.
My name's Emil Huggins, and I'm a United States probation officer in the federal system for 12 years, and prior to that I was a Bexar County probation officer for a little over 10 years. In the federal system especially, there's been an acknowledgement that we can't just keep locking up people and thinking that that's going to take care of the problem. As a matter of fact, there's a book we have, it's called the Monograph 109, and it's basically the handbook of how to be a federal probation officer. And just this year, there's a new revision in the substance abuse section. The very first line of that monograph says that you have to believe that change is possible. And that's a big leap in the mentality of how we've dealt with people in the past.
My name is Ernie Glenn. I'm the Bexar County Drug Court Magistrate. I specifically run the felony drug court program, but also have some jobs that I do with the misdemeanor program too. I mean, my estimate has always been probably 80% of the people who are committing crimes out there, or what we consider crimes, are doing it because they have some sort of substance abuse and sometimes mental illness problem.
These are people that actually, for the most part, have been to prison, and they're coming out and they say, Mr. Huggins, I know I have seen what drugs and alcohol has done to my life, and you don't have to worry because I am never going to do anything like that again. And that's always one of the most worrisome things that I hear, because then they don't really have, it's almost too much confidence.
There was no counseling, there was no anything. There was more, I found drugs almost easier in prison than I did on the streets. I mean, it was always available. Marijuana, hooch, alcohol, cocaine, speed, all these things were available. I mean, if you had the money, you had the right person, you could get it. I mean, I've seen things in prison that nobody should ever see.
Look at the social behaviors we have today in the streets, the terminology that's used, how easily everybody accepts lighting up a joint or having a drink and thinking that this is socializing.
I would almost have to say it was the norm for the area I was in. Everybody was smoking pot, drinking, and that's where I started. And I didn't stop.
And eventually that socializing takes you to the fact that it's repetitive, and it becomes more repetitive. Eventually somebody introduces another drug, then another drug, and another drug, and you find yourself like a dog trying to bite his tail.
It just progressed, got worse. And then I got into other drugs. And when I got into cocaine is when it got bad. I mean, it was bad the whole time, but the cocaine is what made it really bad.
The ones that I talk to that have been in the prison system and been to what they call treatment in the prison system, I say, well, what's the biggest thing you learned? And I get a lot. And they don't remember anything. What they learned was how to do prison. They learned how to call people boss. They learned how to be superficially acceptable. But it was all on the surface. There was no change within.
Somebody's got to pay for the investigation and prosecution and housing, probation, prison, whatever it is that's going to be the end result of all this. So it's really quite a large expense, especially when you consider that housing somebody in jail or prison costs anywhere from around $30,000 a year to $50,000 a year just for one person.
Well, in the past, when you think about judges, for instance, and the philosophies they use for sentencing, there really wasn't any science to it. It was just, the judges are merely a reflection of the community and society, and that's what people were demanding.
We actually started our first drug court around 2001, 2002 in Bexar County, and it kind of got off to a slow start.
As time has progressed, I think there is more science that's happening. We're working off of best practices now.
The DEA and the Chicago PD or all the great police department, it's easy to slap cuffs on somebody. It's easy to lock them up. It's easy to send them to prison. But don't forget, what product are you dealing with? A human being. And he's an addict now, not by choice. He's addicted. He has a disease. How come we don't have medical people involved in all this? Nobody cares. Why do we always be so kind to people? Oh, he has cancer. Oh, poor lady or poor guy. Oh, he's diabetic. Did you take your medicine? Or he's a high blood pressure. Did you take your medicine? As soon as you say, oh, he's a drug addict, they step back. Why? Ignorance. They don't understand what the disease is about and how we have to work with it and how people have to learn to manage it. It's manageable, and you can do it by the things we tell you to do, the steps, the meetings, gravitating to the kind of society you need to work in. It can be done. There's even proof here. I'm going to tell you something. I've worked with a lot of different types of men on the PD and DEA, and I've never met men that I'm prouder to know or work with than here. And I mean that.
One of the things that we do here at Lifetime is begin to help individuals to understand that life is inside out.
So part of that is to learn to take that leap and to be not afraid. You can't get something unless you let go of something. As a client, part of recovery is to be all right with the uncertainty of life and the outcomes. As long as you do what you can, then it'll be all right.
I've never had anybody actually tell me that, and ever since that moment, I wanted to quit. And I haven't gone back since.
We fill that void up with recovery, with positive aspects as opposed to drugs or alcohol.
And it's not in a needle, it's not in a joint, it's not in a bottle. It's in you. It's in the fellowship with everybody else. And that's what I really would like Lifetime to know, is that I appreciate them. Because they saved me. Like I said before, they saved me.
Up to their experience with us here at Lifetime in Treatment, they have lived their lives from an outer perspective, outer needs, outer desires, thinking that their success, their love, came from things outside themselves.
That's what Lifetime has showed me, that there is love out there, and drugs doesn't love you. Alcohol doesn't love you. It wants to kill you.
You know, some of the techniques that we use at Lifetime Recovery is called a small group process. They're able to sit in a circle and be able to process some of these negative behaviors. And it's something that the men here at Lifetime Recovery, the clients, that they're unfamiliar with these type of feelings. Most of the feelings that they're used to dealing with is anger. And when we take them to the next level of actually getting to their heart, where they can actually feel about shame, guilt, really allows these guys to open up and relieve some of these feelings that they have tied up inside them, which could lead to relapse and to a point where they're using drugs again.
You know, it was the first time in my life I ever realized what it meant to care about somebody else other than myself.
To let somebody know that I could be loved and I could love somebody, that was opening up for me. And it was just a new beginning for me, man, to be vulnerable enough to let somebody in.
It's vital. Without some form of treatment, whether that treatment is detox, whether it's outpatient, whether it's intensive residential, whatever the level of care is, doesn't matter. What has this person lost and what do they still have? And those two factors are going to help me figure out what's the best level of care for this person, so that if it's not residential, I can call our people at outpatient and say, hey, I've got a really good candidate for you guys.
I believe treatment's important because treatment works. You know, I've seen it happen, I've seen the changes, I've seen the long-term change, and I know it's possible.
You know, my involvement in lifetime recovery is I feel is so important, is to be there to make certain that an organization like this continues to exist. It has been successful in our family, and I want to make sure that it continues to be there for other families, so that they can benefit from this whole program and understand it and live it out every day of their lives.
I want you to imagine you coming down that road and you turn and this building's not here, or lifetime recovery is not here. What do you have? What do you have? There's no hope. This place is a beacon of hope.
I know that lifetime recovery has to do with helping men to overcome their addictions. But if you think about the name, lifetime recovery, it says that we're not just helping you get to the point where you don't need to take a drink or you don't need to take that next pill or get a shot. It says we are here to help you recover your life. And all the things that can mean.
When we can take someone that's struggling and turn them into somebody that's sober, someone that's productive, someone that's even spiritual, they can be a good father. They find that they're good at it. They find that they can be a good husband, and they like that they can be a good employer. They find that they hold steady jobs and or even create jobs. They get promoted. You know, we hear that stuff all the time.
I didn't know even the things that would be important to me. You know, the restoration of family and the opportunities to be, you know, a contributor in the community. I didn't know that one day, you know, I'd have the opportunity to serve on the board of Lifetime Recovery, you know, or to sponsor, you know, a number of other, you know, men who are in recovery and watch them have their lives turn around and have their families restored. I didn't understand, you know, that was where the value was.
But the thing I also see, when I see men like the ones that work here, and the lady standing behind you, including Rose, the cooks, everybody here, we have one mission only, and that mission is to help these human beings and try to improve this human condition. And I'm proud to be a part of it.
Lifetime is in the business of healing. Healing persons so that they can return back to their families. They can return into society as a contributing individual. And that what we do here is offer love, offer acceptance. We offer life. And then we wait for the individual to accept it, to realize the importance of it, to grasp it, internalize it, and then begin to live it. Life is motivated by love. And so it is love then that becomes the foundation for everything that we are and what we do.
But you need both arms free when love grabs hold. I can finally put my suitcase down. I can finally put my suitcase down.